How to read a book a week. A cliche it sounds, we all know that people who read succeed. I mean, look at the number. 85% of millionaires read at least two books per month, while 25% of the entire American population has even read a single book all of last year. So, what's the best way to actually get yourself to start reading and at a good pace so that you can succeed too? Well, you can basically guarantee that you will read a book a week by taking advantage of three psychological tricks. One, the first is something called implementation intention, basically setting up an appointment. See, the biggest problem when it's come to reading is actually getting started. So many people buy books that they are interested and say to themselves, "Oh, I uh, definitely definitely read this." And guess what? The book just sits there on their shelf, never be never to be touched again. By physically writing down the time and pace of when you started reading a book, you are essentially setting up an appointment to do so. And think about it, you don't really miss our appointments. When was the last time you completely skipped a job interview or a visit to your doctor? Sure, you might have been late, but when you set an appointment, you know that you have to show up and you usually do. Second, the second psychological trick reading a book a week is to use what's called chunking. Basically, breaking down your big tasks into smaller ones. One of the main reasons people start reading books and never finish is because the task seems too big. Ways too big. It feels like we can't do it. Just take a look over, just take a look at the average non-fiction books which is about 200 pages long. How long do you think it takes to read that entire thing one sitting? You are you probably thinks 10, 5, 15 hours maybe. Well, in reality, the average human can read a 200-page book in about 5 hours, which means you really only have to spend 45 minutes a day reading, which probably accounts to just to a chapter or two. So instead of saying, "Okay, I'm gonna read tomorrow right out of lunch at time," it's much more effective to say, "Okay, I'll read the next chapter tomorrow after lunch at home." When you break down a book, each chapter and even further, its sec, its subsections, which most non-fiction books have, then your brain will no longer see it as a huge obst- obstacle that you have to overcome. Instead of thinking, "Oh my god," instead of thinking, "Oh my god, this is gonna take forever," you will think, "That's easy, I can definitely to do that." Thirst. And finally, the last psychological trick to reading a book a week is to use what's called temptation bundling. Basically, taking a task that you don't enjoy that much and it's touching it to something that you really enjoy. For example, you can tell yourself that after every chapter or a subsection of chapter you read, you are gonna reward yourself with the next episode or the next segment of that TV show you love watching. By doing this just a couple of times, it will actually start to feel good to read because your brain will start to associate it with something very pleasurable. It's gonna think, wow, every time I read a chapter or subsection, I feel great after. Now what you might find is thus you actually start to read more chapter than you need by of all uh, combining all of these three tricks. You will add up something like this. Okay, tomorrow after lunch at home, I will read the next chapter of my book. And for every chapter I read, I get to watch the next segment of this episode of Ga- Game of Thrones. Try this out, and I guarantee that you'll find yourself reading a lot more.